Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. So last week, Joe Springer spoke about blessed are the pure in heart, and I have peacemakers, and next week, Andrea Johnson's going to be speaking on blessed are the persecuted. And I am thrilled to be able to share this part of ministry. I've always been a big fan of having people included and having voices that come to this table that aren't just solely on me. I get tired of hearing myself, although this morning I'm really excited to hear myself. Of course, you are too. But that sense of blessed are the peacemakers, it sometimes can be a standalone. Sometimes you can read it and you can, because of your kind of your own preconceived notions, you might go, blessed are the peaceful. Isn't it nice to have peaceful people? We all like to hang out with peaceful people. I married a peaceful person. I mean, it's so great. You know, we have personality types. Peaceful is great. They don't like to create waves, keep it, calm. Whenever they enter a room, it's sort of everything kind of becomes a little bit lighter and safer. And so you like this. But Jesus didn't say, blessed are the peaceful. He said, blessed are the peacemakers. The other thing that comes to mind here is that there are people who get all excited about following God and they want to do something. What are we going to do? And so you want to pull this one out and say, I'm going to make peace. But the thing of it is that the Beatitudes are a lot more like making something. It's a recipe. And so you throw in some eggs and you take that out of there, and then you add a little flour, and you got to have some sugar. Anything you cook that doesn't have sugar, it's probably not worth eating. So you throw some sugar cubes in there. That's always good, and a little milk. Butter. My mom loved butter when she cooked, and so I'm a big fan of using a lot of butter. So that'll work. So it's weird, though, that sometimes when we come to Christianity, we want to pick out certain things. So what I would like for you to do is turn to somebody that you came here with, or be brave and branch out and just ask what your favorite attribute of being a Christ follower would be, or a God follower. So if you're new here and you're like, man, I took a big gamble being here this morning. I don't really even know this God thing. Just fake it. You'll be okay. Nobody will know, okay? So go ahead and turn to somebody. Your favorite attribute of being a Christ follower, a God lover, if you will, all right? Favorite attribute about being a Christ follower. And I'll give you 30 seconds. Go. Pancakes. Yeah. So anybody want to shout out a couple? We'll start in this side. See if we can do a little back and forth. Favorite thing about being a Christ follower attribute? Peace. Love. Not alone. Caring. Forgiving. Helping. Keeping promises. Great. We could do this for a while. That's good. Way to go. Fellowship. Connecting with one another. I want to point out somebody that I came across, and I've never met this person, but I want to tell a little bit of his story, and as a way of illustrating what it means to be a peacemaker. Sami Awad works in conflict resolution, democracy, and nonviolence. He is an executive director of the Holy Land Trust in Palestine, and it's a nonprofit organization which he founded in 1998 in Bethlehem. A sniper killed his father. An ethnic group took over his neighborhood. His family was kicked out. His family became refugees. Sami's life was one of loss. He lost his father, his home, and property. His family fatherless, 7 children ranging from teenager to 2-year-old are standing at a crossroads. And Sammy's mom had a choice. She could have offered them anger and revenge. She could have blamed the other. But she chose Jesus. She said this, "Revenge and retaliation will have no place in our life." This is what she told her children. And as Christ followers, we will become reconcilers. And she had a life statement, and her life statement went like this: "Justice is when we make peace and reconcile with those who have done injustice to us." I'll tell you what, if somebody cuts me off on the road, I'm so mad at them. I can fly off the handle so quickly. I mean, I like to think I have a short temper. I like to think that I have long suffering, but the reality is that I do have a short temper. And I had nothing like what happened to Sammy's family happen to me. And to have a mom be able to connect deeply with what it means to be a peacemaker changed Sammy's life. Justice is when we make peace and reconcile with those who have done injustice to us. What is it that Jesus is calling us to be peacemakers in? Sometimes we can recognize this, that when a conflict arises, we rush in, especially with our American, white, entitled, we've got it together, maybe Northern European, orderly sense of things. We will rush in and save the day. Did Jesus do this? Did Jesus ever pull 2 groups together? Help them broker a peace deal? He didn't. He never did anything of that nature. According to Sami Awad, peacemaking is 2 things. Peacemaking is personal, and peacemaking is personal. Often we take our Beatitudes and make them into bumper stickers. They are not. They are to be made into a recipe which we then stew on. We find our way into, and in this recipe, we become transformed. And that is the first part of peacemaking. It will transform us. So let's review briefly the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Remember this? This is, I need God. I am destitute. Think of the person who's has no food. They don't have a home. They are out begging. Do we find ourselves being able to connect with that sense of, I need God? To the point where you don't even have words. You are on the ground and you're groaning with this deep sense of, God, help me. There is nothing within me that can make me more than I am. I need your touch. Blessed are those who mourn. When we hurt over our own brokenness and the brokenness we see around us. God says he'll comfort. Blessed are the meek, fully acknowledging our place and bringing a gentle touch to those around us. Throwing in mercy. Blessed are those who are merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. We have peacemaking. It's interesting that peacemaking follows, blessed are those who are pure in heart. Seems to me that when there is a purity of heart, when you have created a space within you that has set aside your own ambition, your own sense of I am somebody, and you recognize I need God, that in that space then God comes, joins you, and together God and you begin to do transforming work. When the transforming work happens, it oftentimes will be peacemaking work. And the peacemaking work, and I don't want to steal the thunder here, will lead to some persecution. And it may lead to persecution within your own tribe. And the tribe I talk of could be right in here. Consider this our family, our tribe, the people you are sitting next to, the people behind you and before you. When you start to do real peacemaking, it could create tension within one another. And I would ask that we would not leave each other, but we would sit in that moment where it is challenging for one another. And you may be going, what on earth is that about? We'll get to that. That's called a teaser. So it begins with personal transformation. We just don't run off and become peacemakers. We first have to take care of some stuff in our own lives. The second aspect is also personal, and it is personal engagement. How do we deal with our enemies? Do we have enemies? Can you name an enemy? Don't say it out loud. That'd be awkward. See, you did it. So there are enemies, right? And there may be somebody in here who would yell out Clinton, right? I mean, the enemies are all over. And I'm not saying either one of those is an enemy. I don't want to get into that. But the point being, there are enemies. There are enemies around us that we could easily name. For Sami Awad, a Palestinian, there is a lot of space for hatred to have been fostered. I think the norm would have been for him and his family to practice violence toward the other. And so enter stage right. Jesus living in Palestine today. And one could imagine that he would have a Gandhian or a kingdom, as in Martin Luther King, sense of things, to be non-violent. Why did Jesus come? And Jesus comes for the oppressed. Jesus came for the occupied. He came to speak for those who are suffering injustice. And you could find verses that would back all of this up. But using Jesus, playing scriptural gymnastics, if you will, to stand against another is not where Jesus stood. You follow that? There are people sometimes, they'll take this, the Bible, Scripture, and they'll work it. They'll make it a gymnastics event where they work hard to figure out who they are with and who they are against. The one that Jesus most often was against was the spiritual religious leader of the day, the Pharisee. It wasn't the other. The other seems to be easy to identify. We may even find ourselves able to do this. Someone who steals, we call them a. Someone who kills is a. Someone who rapes is a. But what is behind those actions? See, it's easy to label somebody. It's easy to put someone in a box and make them the other. But Jesus doesn't create the other amongst us. He creates an us that is all broken. An us to whom God says, while you were yet sinners, while you were yet broken, when you were a mess, he showed up. Jesus came to heal and to free others. A saying goes like this: unless one transforms their own pain, they are bound to transmit it. Why are we, and I include me in this, why are we so quick to create these divisions of us and them? Those people, that person, oh, I hate them. I wish they were dead. I'd like to just punch him in the face. Just give him the finger. I wish they would disappear. I wish they'd never existed. Those people. But when we clear out the space in our lives and have done transformative work in our own lives, the space inside invites us then to be peacemakers and to create personal engagement with the other. I'm sure there's some in here who are like, oh my gosh, that guy is an idiot. He's pushing me here to places I don't necessarily agree with or want to go. Oh well, we'll work on it. And I am glad to have coffee or a pint or whatever with you to talk through and to wrestle and to find ways. So I watched yesterday a Netflix documentary called The White Helmets. It's not an easy documentary to watch. It's about Aleppo and the Syrian crisis. And there's a group of men who have banded together and they wear white helmets, as the title goes. And they go, whenever a bombing happens, they go and they try to rescue. And they dig through the rubble and find those who are the survivors and those who have died. And they just do good work. They're not on anybody's side, apparently. They just simply are trying to be peacemakers. They're a civilian defense corps. Several years ago, about 2 years ago now, there was a bombing. 2 barrel bombs hit a little village outside of Aleppo, and they went. And they worked hard. And it was a small village of about 10 buildings, and all the buildings were destroyed. Most of the people there had died, and they worked for about 16 hours, and nothing really was happening. It was starting to get tiresome, and they were ready to shut it down, and they heard a cry of a child. And you watch the footage, and you are astounded. They keep digging. They're emboldened by this cry, and they finally find, way deep, this little 1-week-old child, a little boy, and they bring him out. And you can't hardly watch and not be, brought to tears. And they hold him, and there's laughter, and they've done good work. They were making peace in that moment. Well, later in the show, in the documentary, they head off to a center to do work on how to do recovery in Turkey. And at this place, 2 years on, about a year and a half on, that little boy shows up and walks through. And these men all kiss this little boy. They just kiss him. Affection. And the statement that one of the guys made, Khalid Farrar, he said, to save a life is to save humanity. I don't know if that guy is a Christ follower, but there is a spark inside that guy who recognizes that God created us. And God created us to be peacemakers, not to destroy. That's over there. Peacemaking over there. We don't have people dropping bombs here. How do we engage here? I'll tell you, for me, one is we live in a valley that is 50%, or at least Mount Vernon area, is 50% Hispanic. And a few years ago, I thought to myself, I have no Hispanic friends. And yet I live in a community that is 50% Hispanic. I need a Hispanic friend. I have to do this. This is stupid. I'm embarrassed that I live and hang out only with white people. And so I made a point. I am going to become a friend. And I did. I might have more than one now, but one in particular. I like this guy. I like his wife. I like his 3 children. They came to my house. We watched the United States play Mexico together. His kids all wear Mexican jerseys watching the game and cheered, and I was cheering for the U.S. But when Mexico scored in the overtime to win the game, their kids were so excited, I found myself going, oh, that's so great for them. Even though I didn't want them to win, I found myself, rather than the other, I was turned. And it became an us moment. Now, it's not Aleppo, but it is here. Who are you becoming friends with? Who do you connect with in a way that brings peace rather than us and them? Second one, and I bring this up just briefly. I teach 6th and 7th grade students at Conway Middle School. They're boys and girls, and I don't know if you knew this week there was it was International Girl Day. And you get these emails, they show up, and it was International Girl Day. And with what's been going on in our country and just a lot of dialogue about what it means to be a woman and what it means to honor people, I thought, this is a moment. So I have a big poster in my room of my family, and I pointed over and I said, I love my daughter. This is the beginning of the school day on Wednesday. And I said, you know what, I love her so much. And I've started to tremble, because I miss her a lot. But, she's the best girl in the whole world. I love her more than any other girl in the whole world. And a couple of the girls in the room, they're all like, oh, that's so nice. And then I said, I want every girl in this room to stand up. And they stood up. And they are sweet kids. Wonderful little kids. And I looked them each in the eye, and I pointed to each one, and I said their name. And I said, and I, without being weird, love you. Peacemaking in a world that oftentimes says women and girls are less valuable, it is important for us to speak peace into those kids' lives and say, you are so loved and so precious and valuable. When we see no longer the other but us, we engage in peacemaking. When we gather at this table, we gather to make peace. We do not come to this table to share an opinion of, oh, I did these good things this week, or I'm better than this person or that. It is at this table that the other disappears and we become a collective us. So this morning I've asked Jim and Kay if they would serve. And as they come to the table, and as you come to the table, they will hold the bread and the wine and the grape juice, and they will offer to you a piece of bread. And they will say, this is the body of Christ broken for you. This is the blood of Christ shed for you. So Jesus, on the night that he was betrayed, he was with his very best friends. And he took some bread. They were eating and having a great time together, and they had had a wonderful week in Jerusalem. And he said, this is my body, which is broken for you. Take and eat, each of you. And as often as you do this, you're going to remember me. Isn't that was such a good gift to us, to be able to come to this table week after week and say, it is for us too. It is food for our journey. And then he took a cup, and he said it's a new covenant. The Old Testament is chock full of quite a lot of hard passages, like eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. That one always kind of rankles you. But then Jesus says, it's a new covenant. It's a new day. All of that stuff in the past has been made complete in me. So as I am about to die and then to be resurrected, I'm saying new day. No longer them and other, but us. A new covenant. So as you come this morning, come to this table, creating that space within you that says, God has made peace with me. God, would you use me personally to engage my community to be a peacemaker as well? So I invite you to come. The table is for you. The people of God, It is nourishment for our journey.